Good evening, YouTube. I am Danielle, better known as Danielle the Happy Medium, and in this video or blog we're going to be looking at your Q&A or your question and answered. So in this Q&A we are going to talk about mediumship blanks. So in this particular video, this question come from a lovely lady called Kerry, and her question to me was, Danielle, why is it whenever I'm doing either a reading or I'm doing a floor event, I find I get blanks in my mediumship? So there's a couple of reasons as to why this may happen. One, it could be that you have lost your blend with the spirit world, which means that you have fundamentally dropped the link in which that you have when you're working with your communicator, and you've actually switched from a mediumship link to a psychic link. And because ultimately there's been a change in what we call flipping the switch, as I like to put it. So basically we flip a switch to go to mediumship, or we flip a switch to go to psychic. What happens is that sometimes when you get blanks in your mediumship there, or there's pockets of information that is missing, it is fundamentally because you have flipped the switch from mediumship back to psychic, and which means that you've then dropped your blend, and which means that you've now stepped away from your communicator or your loved one as such. So what I recommend there is that you flip the switch back over. You have to use a bit more energy to bring that communicator back and ask that communicator to work again with you there. My advice with any newbie or anybody who's even working with the spirit world and are finding these issues, try ultimately to always stay with your blend, and making sure that you're always staying with your loved one and with this communication at all times, and learning to hold that communication is really, really important. And fundamentally I see a lot of mediums drop that link or can't go back and pick that link back up, which means that they totally just wipe out all of the work that they've done and then have to start back over, which makes even more work for the medium. Like I said, the spirit world will never change. That communication will always be there. But for you as the medium, it makes hard work for your night. Another reason that you may have a blank is ultimately that your confidence has dropped, or that the energy has dropped, or because you've had a couple of no's either within your sitting or within your platform work, you've started to panic somewhere within that. Your mind is starting to interfere. There's starting to be a dilution of the information, or your mind, of your conscious mind, is starting to push over there and is starting to interfere within the communication, which again can allow you to drop that link there as well, or make you come away from your blend. So what I would say with that one is try not to allow your conscious mind or the energy to drop. If you get a no, then I as a trainer have a great technique for being able to go back and get that no. And if you have your communicator with you, and the trust in the fact that your loved ones or this loved one's here with you, they'll never leave you. The best thing that you can tell yourself when you're doing any kind of sitting or any kind of one-to-one or any kind of floor demonstration is, nothing's wrong here, everything's going well, I can do this. The more positive you can be within your mediumship, the better it's going to be for you. The minute you start and allow that fear to set in, or you allow this ego sort of conscious mind to step in, you will fundamentally see your work drop massively, and you will find that you will get more and more no's, because you as the medium have stepped in the way of the communication, which ultimately will make the communication come to its ultimate halt, which will give you blanks in that communication. Now, the third reason can also be is you don't have the knowledge set. And you're looking at me thinking, well, what do you mean by that, Danielle? Well, ultimately, what I talk about is your spiritual toolbox. Every one of us and every medium will have a spiritual toolbox. Some mediums are more developed with their spiritual toolbox. Some people are still developing their spiritual toolbox. And I'll give you a prime example. I was caught out myself a couple of weeks ago with a lady who come for me for a private sitting. And I've been sitting now for about 4 years, but never had a sitting like this sitting, so I didn't have that spiritual knowledge or toolbox within me. So I'll give you a little bit of example. This gentleman had gone abroad. He had passed abroad in a very unusual and very different way. Because I didn't already have that knowledge base set, and I didn't have all of the spiritual toolbox within me, there was blanks within the message or blanks within the communication of where I couldn't quite reach it. One, because my mind wasn't open enough for it, and two, because I didn't have the skill set in place. Now I do have that skill set in place. Ultimately, what will happen is the next time I should take a reading like that, they will bring that memory to the forefront to be able to bring that sort of evidence again, even though they will not be exactly the same, there will be similarities in order for me to be able to gain that knowledge there so that I can relay that to my sitter or to the person who I'm giving a message to on the floor there. So there are a couple of reasons as to why your mediumship may have blanks or why they may have bits and pieces missing from it. My advice to any medium who's working or watching me or just sort of getting into the flow of it, keep an eye on how much you're interfering with your message. Make sure you're staying positive at all times. Learn to work your nose. Go back to your communicator. Remember, whatever floods into your mind at that time when you're working for the spirit world is true. It just may be that the way in which that you're giving it isn't true and correct. And again, this can also be another reason as to why you have mediumship blanks, is the fact that you think that this particular, I don't know, bottle of water, or, well, I'll give an example. I've had my tea here because I'm just sitting sort of drinking tea. The cup of tea is just the cup of tea. There is no more to that cup of tea. But what I do tend to see is mediums will say, oh, your dad only made half a cup of tea, when really it wasn't. It was just that dad liked a cup of tea. So what you're doing is you're interfering with that communication, which will get you a no, which will knock your confidence, which will then make you back away from the communication. Nobody will ever back away. The spirit world will never back away from the communication. The only person that will is you. So try to give what you get. Don't interfere with the evidence in which that you are given there. Don't try to make sense of it. I see a lot of mediums trying to make sense of it. It's not our job as mediums to make sense of the information. It is ultimately the sitter's responsibility to do that there. So thanks to Kerry for her question, which is why do we get blanks in mediumship? I hope this has been able to cover a few of them sort of issues or problems there. If you'd like more knowledge or you'd want a bit more sort of in-depth stuff, then do sort of leave me a comment in the comment box. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But for now, this has been Why is Mediumship Blanks, and I've been Danielle, better known as Danielle, the Happy Medium.